the name of my story today, and actually I changed the name from the name that's on the screen up there. And it's not up there, that's good. The name of my story is Help the Other Person. The Potato family went to one of their favorite places in the woods yesterday for a lovely afternoon picnic. They spread out their blanket on the ground and they opened up their picnic basket and they had all sorts of yummy food. And overhead the birds were singing and the sun was dappling down through the tree branches. It was just really nice. And after they had their lunch, they played Foo. And Foo is just a really fun game that uses 6 dice. And it's not a game that you can buy in a store. It's just a game that you learn from your friends. And you just use leftover dice from other games you don't have anymore. Well, 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 said Mr. Potato Head as he rolled a double Foo. I guess that ends this game. And then he said to Mrs. Potato Head, I think it's time for our nap. And they laid back down to take a little afternoon snooze. And before he closed his eyes, he said, now you tater tots, listen to your grandmother. So Mrs. Potato Head, the grandmother, picked up her knitting and she began knitting. And she said, you just have a good time, just stick around close. And Polly and Hammond played another game of Foo, but it's not so much fun playing Foo with just 2 people. So they thought they would invite the grandma to come with them. But she had fallen asleep too. So Hammond said to Polly, let's go explore. Polly was a little nervous, but she said, okay. And they just went around the corner, just around the tree there. And there was a beautiful little stream. And they saw tadpoles in the stream. And wow, Hammond said, I see money, look. And they looked in and there was 2 quarters right at the edge of the stream. And so Hammond reached in to get the quarters and he couldn't quite reach. His arm just wasn't long enough. And he said, Polly, hold my feet. So she held his feet, he reached, and they both fell right in the water. The water was just inches deep. And it was really cold and it got kind of wet, but it was fun too. And they found the quarters and then they found some pretty stones and they saw the tadpoles and they put the stones and the quarters in their pockets. And it was just really fun. Well, then they were having just enough fun. They had wandered a little bit further down the stream, but they didn't notice the pairs of eyes watching them from back in the woods. Yes. One pair of eyes was a very large dog who quietly watched over them in a protecting kind of way. And only the dog saw the other pair of eyes from a small bobcat that was slinking down to the edge of the water, getting closer and closer. And the dog watched the bobcat. And the bobcat was thinking, look at those delicious potatoes in the water. And the dog jumped in front of the bobcat, and the bobcat turned and ran away, and the dog disappeared into the woods. Well, Polly and Hammond didn't see either pair of eyes, and it startled them, though, because they heard the noise, and Hammond started running, and Polly got a whole sort of anxious and worried, and she fell over, and her hat came off, and she started to cry out, and Hammond thought, should I get her? Should I go for myself? And he thought, the water wasn't that deep, and he knew she could just get up and run. But he listened to a voice in his head that said, you should always help the other person. And even though he teases Polly so much, he knew this was kind of scary, and he should help her. And he did help her get up. In today's lesson, Jesus taught Peter and Paul to always help the other person. And they, Peter and Paul, have helped us learn that by what they wrote down and what's in our Bible. And so we will always know, even if it means a little something scary and not only watching out for yourself, you need to help the other person. The end.